To the avid trout fisherman, nothing is more precious than catching a rare species known as the coaster brook trout. Coasters are rare, but in the protected bays of Isle Royale National Park, catching the fish of a lifetime happens every day. On this week's episode of Fishing 411, Mark Romanack shares the boat with Captain Travis White of Keweenaw Charter Fishing Company. This bucket list fishing destination has it all: wilderness, adventure, scenic beauty, and the fish of a lifetime await anglers who visit Isle Royale.
Wow, this is absolutely stellar.
What a gorgeous fish. We're gonna get a quick picture for Facebook, and then she's going back to do some spawning.
Just exactly what Travis was saying, the last little 2 seconds before I was about ready to lift that spinner out of the water. We're kind of splitting up and combining a couple of different techniques here. Travis has got a jerkbait on there, and I've got a rooster tail spinner. So,
oh, there's one right there. Right where Mark just hooked up on that one.
Well, yours is a little bit bigger than this one.
This is a nice one. Yeah, hey buddy. Little shoulders on them. Boy, this is my favorite type of fishing out here, Mark.
I can see why.
This is a pretty fish here. And boy, are they feisty. So that's now a real coaster. Basically, a coaster brook trout is a brook trout in Lake Superior that lives out in the open lake, and it actually spawns out in the lake or in some of the small tributaries here. We'll pop that jerk out. And we'll send this guy on. Away he goes.
Right back where he came from. That's a beautiful thing. Good job. Good job.
Well, that's a great start.
It is a very good start here. Our guest on this week's episode is Travis White. We've known Travis for a long time. He guides here out of the Keweenaw Peninsula and very, very familiar with these waters. You've seen him on our television shows before. He's fished with us on the Keweenaw Peninsula. You've also seen him at Standard Rock with us, and now we fished with him at Isle Royale. Outstanding guy in the boat. You won't find a gentleman who knows more about these cold water species than Travis White. You know, originally here we started with a two-prong approach, and essentially that approach was to use a spinner to cover water fast, and also to use a jerkbait. But quite honestly, the jerkbait seems to be a better presentation today, so we both switched over to jerkbaits. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Travis.
You bet.
What a beautiful fish. People that like trout covet brook trout like no other, and it's obvious to see why. They're beautiful fish. They are probably the best eating, at least in my opinion, of all the trout species. This one is not going to get eaten. This one's another male, and he's going to go back and grow up a little bit, but Isle Royale has got it going on for brook trout, man. That is a cool thing. Thank you, Travis.
So one of the things that we like to do when we're fishing for these small trout, like these coasters, is just take these jerk baits and roll the barbs down on each treble. And what that does is it allows, when we hook these fish, it allows us to really easily get this hook out of their mouth once we get them in the net, so that we're not causing a little more tear up to the gills and the jaw than we need to. With the barbless hooks, these fish will stay on this bait all the way to the net without any problem. As long as you're keeping proper tension on your line, you're never going to lose a fish because you don't have a barb. Really, the critical thing is as you get them into the net, make sure you don't give that fish any slack, or that bait might throw. But once you do get them in the net, the nice thing is as those fish start flopping, a lot of times they will actually throw the bait in the net, and therefore they won't cause any further damage or harm to the fish. So I like to use barbless. It really helps these fish out, and you're not going to lose any fish because of it if you keep good line tension.
Special considerations are provided by Cisco Fishing Systems and Striker brands. Go early, go late, go prepared. Additional considerations provided by Fishhawk Electronics. Trolling without a fishhawk is called boating.
Well, fishing a jerkbait there's a little bit of an art to it. It's not difficult, but if you're not doing it right, you won't get many bites. You definitely don't want to do a steady retrieve. What you want to do is make a nice long cast. Keep your rod tip down close to the water, reel up the slack, and as soon as you can feel the bait, you want to give some short twitches with your rod tip and then pause. Twitches with your rod tip and then pause. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get that bait to rock and roll and flash, but not move very far. You're trying to keep it on the structure as long as you can keep it on the structure. When you start looking around here where we're catching these fish, it's in very precise spots. A little boulder here, a little boulder there, the tip of that point, a little log, that's laying down. It's visual cover, stuff that you can actually see, a place where a trout can hide. And nothing is better at fishing that than a jerkbait, because you can keep it right on that structure, right on that cover, and literally tease that fish to come out and eat. And that's why jerkbaits are so good for this style of fishing.
Oh, is he feisty? What a pretty fish, Mark. Wow, gorgeous.
Nicely done, Travis, nicely done.
So this is a male brook trout, and you can see he's got a little more of a pronounced color to him. He's got that bright red in the fins. He's also got a little bit longer jaw, lower jaw, and that's really one of the telltales of one of these male brook trout. But those fins are just absolutely gorgeous, the colors on them. And you can see these coasters have those real red spots with the blue halos. They're just gorgeous fish.
Well, while some of these brook trout we've been catching are modest in size, what you have to keep in mind is that brook trout actually aren't even trout at all. They're members of the char family. They're related to lake trout, and just like lake trout, they are a slow-growing fish. So when you start seeing fish that are in that 12, 14-inch range, these are fish that have lived a long time. It takes a long time to grow these fish to any substantial size. And I think that's the primary reason why brook trout are typically managed with catch and release management. Keeping a minimal harvest on them is important because it takes too long to replace the fish. So if they allow people to come in and harvest large numbers of them, you just can't replace them in any kind of a given time frame. And so catch and release is the way to go when it comes to brook trout. And if you're going to keep any, maybe just the occasional fish that's hooked so deeply that it's bleeding or something. But if you can let them go, by all means do so.
So a little bit of history on the coaster brook trout in Lake Superior is that coaster brook trout were actually wiped out to the point of near extinction back in the late 1800s, when people really started moving into this area at the peak of the timber and mining booms up in the Keweenaw Peninsula and the south shore of Lake Superior. And because these coasters are so aggressive, they're relatively easy to catch, and they were very vulnerable to fishing pressure. So a lot of those fish got caught out of the lake, and because they're so slow growing, it took a long time for them to recover. However, recently there's a bit of a success story with coaster brook trout in that due to some very conservative regulations, there's a 1 fish per day limit on Lake Superior, and that brook trout has to be over 20 inches in order to keep. And folks that are out here fishing for brook trout on any regular basis are typically into catch and release fishing, maybe with the exception of fish that are fatally hooked or fish that would be a wall hanger, I guess. So with some of these recent changes in the regulations and management, and also with some of the modern practices for forestry and mining, these fish have really had a chance to rebound, and especially in places like Isle Royale, where the natural environment has been very well preserved over time, these coasters are really able to flourish. And hopefully that continues to happen across Lake Superior, and in the future maybe we'll see a really good, healthy population of coasters once again.
That is a nice fish. Oh, let me get out of the way here. That is a beautiful trout. Look at the beautiful sun on that brook trout.
Just barely.
Oh, you got him. Way to go, Travis. Way to go.
That is cool. That's our biggest coaster so far today. And that fish just came out of about 2 feet of water in the sandy corner. And I saw a log up in there, threw to it. And that fish hit really funny and just swam straight towards us. All of a sudden he was under the boat. So that was kind of neat. So this is about an 18-inch fish, and for out here in Lake Superior and Isle Royale, this is really getting to be a high-quality brook trout. You know, they very rarely get up over 20 inches, so if we get a fish much bigger than this, we're going to consider that a real trophy. So one of the issues facing these coasters out here is actually a parasite called gill lice, and we can see them in there right now. These are basically a natural occurring organism that lives out here in Lake Superior. And unfortunately, these fish get infected with them, you know, just as by nature of occupying this warmer, shallower water. So they're not fatal to the fish, but they certainly aren't great for them. And it just, over time, can affect the respiration, especially in the warmer summer months.
Special considerations provided by Precision Trolling, the Troller's Bible. Special considerations provided by the Ultimate Sport Show Tour, Michigan's elite sport shows. Eagle Claw presents the 411 on fishing.
You know, one of the cool things about offshore boards is you can trip them out any way you want for whatever type of fishing that you enjoy doing the most. In this instance, you can add all kinds of accessories to these boards. For example, the articulating flag kits. This is called the tattle flag kit. This is a really nice accessory to have if you're a walleye fisherman, or if you're fishing for species that are, maybe you're going to catch smaller fish. Maybe you're salmon fishing and you're afraid you're going to catch some small jack salmon, not know you have one on. Well, with the tattle flag, that solves that problem. So that's an aftermarket product that you can offer as well. You can also change out the nuts that come standard on the offshore boards. A nylon nut comes with the board, but you can buy these nylocks, tighten them down, and then you'll never have to worry about the nuts coming loose or your releases ever coming off as well. Well, if you've got older offshore boards, probably the flags you have are a little different than these. The new flags have this tab on the side here, which allows you more spring tension settings for the tattle flags. So it's a nice little feature as well. Well, what if you don't like orange flags? No problem. They come in 2 colors. So you can have a green flag and you can have an orange flag. What a lot of guys will do is set up the orange flags for the right-hand side of the boat, set up the green flags for the left-hand side of the boat. The beauty of that is at a glance you can tell whether you're looking at your port or your starboard boards. In offshore tackle, you just can't beat all the options for customizing or tripping out your board.
Boy, this is my favorite type of fishing out here, Mark.
I can see why.
It's a silverfish.
It's a silverfish. What you got going there?
I don't know. This could be something real off the wall here. Maybe a brown trout? I don't know. It could just be a fired up laker, but they sure don't like to jump like that.
That was awful silver.
It was awful silver,
I'm
Mark.
gonna just get my rod right out of the way, and
this might be an awesome bonus fish here of some sort. Isle Royale is such a diverse fishery, especially midsummer. We get a lot of salmon, steelhead, and even brown trout that make their way out here from nearby shore, Thunder Bay, for instance. And really, they're coming out here to feed in the summer.
Doesn't surprise me. I've been making you net your own fish all day. I'll give you a favor on this one here,
Awesome.
though. I think this one needs a net. I listen to that drag sing. I love it. I love it. That's a beautiful thing. Oh, he wants to get you underneath the boat.
Sure enough, it's a brown trout.
It is indeed. We'll go on. If he wants to go on this side, we'll go on this side.
He's taking me for a ride here. This is a fun fish.
Yep. Uh-oh, hang on to him for just a second. I got a lure stuck in the net. How could that happen in the most inopportune time? That never happens in your boat, does it?
Oh, usually the cleat. Well, I tell you what, just the way that fish hit, I knew it had something different on here. These brown trout just hit so darn hard when they charge these stick baits. Yeah, nice one, Mark.
Very nice fish. Congratulations. That is
Thank
a
you.
beautiful.
What a
That's a
fish.
beautiful brown right there.
Yeah. Well, this is a really nice bonus fish out here for Isle Royale. This is a brown trout, and this is actually more typical of what we find near shore around the Keweenaw on the South Shore of Lake Superior. But you could tell right when he hit that bait, he meant to kill it, and he just was screaming drag ever after. Beautiful fish.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the fact we're catching these fish on jerk baits, and not all jerk baits are created equal. In this situation, because we're fishing very light line, you have to have a jerk bait that's got a little bit of weight to it. So plastic jerk baits tend to be the better choice here as opposed to traditional balsa wood baits. A balsa wood bait, these fish would eat it, but the problem is you couldn't cast them very far. So plastic baits seem to be a little bit better. Also, I personally like a suspending style of jerk bait because you can work it really slow, you can stop it by a spot, you can see a boulder or maybe a log, you can get it right there and you can stop it and just let it sit there and just very lightly twitch it. And oftentimes that will trigger a strike. And you can't do that with a buoyant bait that pops right back up to the surface. So plastic jerk baits and neutrally buoyant jerk baits are going to be your best choices here. Things in that 3 to 3.5, 4 inch range are going to be ideal for brook trout. What a beautiful fish. Look at the sunshine on that. That don't make your heart pound. I think you need a new heart.
There we go. Nice one, Mark.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I want to hold him off. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Another male, I believe, isn't that?
Sure looks
Travis?
like it, yeah.
Got a little bit of a cape on him. Beautiful colors. Can't even imagine how pretty these fish would be in September and October when they're spawning.
Special considerations are provided by Trailmaster Trailers and Daiwa Corporation. Special considerations are provided by ProCure, ruthlessly effective bait scents.
On our adventure, we camped near Rock Harbor, which is the main place that most people come to Isle Royale from. But Isle Royale is 45 miles long. There are tons of camping opportunities all across the island and tons of fishing opportunities all across the island. Quite honestly, it's like fly-in style fishing. It's that remote. In fact, if you want to, you can actually take a float plane to Isle Royale. That's pretty cool. How many times did we cast that spot before that trout?
Oh, geez, several. Yeah. That might have
Probably
been
a dozen casts in there before that fish finally parted.
right. It was just finally time. That's cool. That fish was laying right up in the shallows, maybe in 2 or 3 feet of water, and that might have been the second twitch of the reel after that lure hit the water. Well, another spunky fish here. Just a beautiful Isle Royale coaster. Woo. Waving goodbye. Now that was cool. That was a fun fish, real spunky. They sure like to spend a lot of time on the surface when you're fighting them. You know, they seem to know what they have to do to throw that lure. Show you guys what we're using. So this isn't really a match the hat situation because I've never seen anything out here that looks like this. But for whatever reason, these brook trout really seem to like these bright colors, and maybe that's just part of a brook trout's nature. They have very bright colors themselves, and it's just sort of that pure brook trout aggression, I think, that makes them eat something like this that you wouldn't really think would make any sense otherwise.
Another piece of very valuable equipment for what we're doing are sunglasses. If you notice, both myself and Travis have got high quality polarized glasses on. And it's essential because you have to be able to see the targets that you're throwing at. Polarized glasses allow us to look into the water and see those rocks that we're trying to target. Also, you need to be able to see your bait. And as you're working that bait, you can see that bait. I never take my eyes off it. And a lot of times what you'll see is a flash. That's the fish coming out from cover and grabbing that bait. You actually see the fish before you feel the fish. And if you didn't have polarized glasses, you would not be able to do that. So the other thing is a safety factor. We're talking about lures with sharp hooks on them, and it's very easy for you to set the hook, miss a fish, and have a lure come right back in your face. So polarized glasses are a safety factor as well as helping us see the structure we're fishing.
That's where brook trout really make their living. One of the things with Lake Superior is that our water is just cold year-round, and by cold I'm talking under 60 degrees, and these brook trout can really thrive in water temps of 50 to 60 degrees all summer long, and they're really never going to be that far from shore. You can see where Mark just caught that one. His cast hit the water, about 2 feet of water and 5 feet from the bank, and that fish hit right away.
You know, the ideal setup for brook trout fishing here is going to be spinning gear. Medium to medium light spinning gear, a 7 to 7.5 foot rod, 10-pound test braid is a good main line, but you're going to want a fluorocarbon leader. The water here is gin clear, so a 2 to 3 foot fluorocarbon leader in that 10 to 12-pound test range is going to be ideal. Of course, you're going to terminate that with a jerkbait. In this case, smaller jerkbaits in that 3 to 4 inch class are going to be ideally sized for brook trout. Whew. Wow, sometimes they just bite right at the boat, and that's what happened in this case. Thank you, Travis.
You
Nice
bet.
net job there.
Nice fish.
Nice net job. I only got about maybe 5 feet of line out into my rod tip, and that fish just comes out of nowhere and eats it. You gotta love brook trout. They're fearless, man. If they want it, they're gonna get it. Look at this boy. We have had a magnificent day of brook trout fishing. Hey, my name is Mark Romanack. I'd like to thank Travis White for showing us some of his brook trout hotspots. If you get a chance to come to Isle Royale, definitely check out the fishing opportunities here. And you're going to be able to find contact information for the charter business at the end of the show. Travis, put it there, man.
Thank you, Mark. It's been
Thank you.
fun.
What a beautiful fish.
Closed captioning is provided by Lakeside Motorsports, Michigan's premier marine and power sports company. Fishing 411 is brought to you by Offshore Tackle, Ontario, Canada, Starcraft Marine, Yakima Bait Company, Smooth Moves, Niagara Falls, USA, Lowrance Electronics, Evinrude Outboards, and by Jay's Sporting Goods.